So last month, I make fun of Neil for not showing up, for not being able to do an episode because he had to go to the dentist. So how do I begin my day today? At the dentist.
Of course.
Which the person who ends up doing my teeth is like one of the heads of the clinic, and she knows how to use those instruments of sorts. I could feel. Let's just say I was numb after the experience today.
Just comedy gold, man. Just comedy gold.
The opinions expressed in the following are those of its participants and do not necessarily reflect those of the producers and the Six Talk Podcast Network. Also, the following contains mature material and mild language, which may not be suitable for all audiences. Discretion is advised.
So, as it is, the round table has now assembled for episode 5 of the Six Talk era. Mike Nicolas with you in front of a live audience in our 6 Point studio. Unfortunately, it is a little bit different than the other gatherings. Neil Sinclair is not here tonight because he has a life. James Austin isn't here tonight because he has a life too. He had other stuff planned. But Shamarke, Ing, they're both here tonight because it's been a few months since we've heard from them in any form, and it was time we had both of them here. But once again, we're playing hurt. Kevin here has a cold tonight. Yes. So we made it a point, we made it a point to put tissues, a box of Kleenex, and a whole pitcher of water beside him.
It's been 2 weeks too.
Yes. Well, the thing is, and I'll tell you the story. Like Mohamed and I have both had colds in the last month too.
Yep.
And I'll tell you this story about how I ended up with mine. Okay. This was like a month ago. Basically, it was a cool night. I decided to go to McDonald's.
Oh, God.
I walked all the way to McDonald's from here, just down the street.
Yep, that's not that far.
That's like the ghetto. Isn't that the ghetto McDonald's?
Sure.
We always call. I don't know why. It always looks a little more suspect than other McDonald's.
It's small. I'll tell you that. And then as I'm walking home, I felt a tinkle in my throat, and then it was downhill from there. Right. Next day I went with my best friend and my sister. We went to go see Joe Coy, a Filipino comedian at the Sony Center. So that's the thing that James and I that I referred to in the digest with James last month. And then the next 2 weeks were pretty bad. So that's pretty much the story of the last month for me, having to deal with a cold myself. And yes, it basically had been going around, so don't feel too bad about this.
It's I think literally it was like an entire cycle of people in the office, just one after the other.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So don't
my office too.
Yeah. So let's just call it destiny. So you'll excuse us if you hear Kevin coughing. We don't have cough buttons on these microphones.
Is that a thing? A cough button?
Yeah, apparently yes. I mean, the Yeti. I record my.
There's like a button to push.
There's a mute button. Yes.
Okay.
I guess essentially it's a cough button. Yeah. That would be part of the purpose, I suppose. My the Yeti that I tape my I tape the solo segments on, my own solo segments on, like last night, and we'll talk about that a little bit because neither of you have listened to it yet.
Not yet.
Don't worry about it. Because
in my defense, it has not hit my subscription box yet.
Okay.
In my defense,
I've been listening to old episodes because I'm trying to find the episode where Neil and Adam had that that final insult with the big comfy couch. I'm trying to find that episode because I wanted to play it to two of my coworkers at work.
I remember the episode where Adam made some comments in regards to one of the girls.
Sugar?
No. Comparing her services, something to do with Backpage. I forgot what her name was. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh, was it when they read off the ad?
Yeah. And the pricing, they were like, that seems reasonable, right?
Oh, it's the spit take. It's the spit take incident. I
Yes.
guess.
Oh, that was the
spit take incident.
Oh, geez.
Adam-
I think I saw Adam at Union like a week ago because it looked like him, but
Entirely possible.
I just didn't say anything because I didn't want to be like, I didn't want to be that weirdo. So then I just didn't say anything. I just thought, I looked like him.
It's some random dude walks up to you at Union Station.
It's like, hey, I know you from this podcast from 10 years ago.
Are you Adam Grant? I know you. Is that which one of these two is Adam?
No.
No, neither of them.
Wait,
are Adam?
let me see that. This picture.
It's really blurry now, but that's all I got.
No, that's neither of them. Neither of them are him.
No.
I think that's just a
An old-
random thing. I'll tell you this story. I ran into I guess this is a good way to start. I ran into Brent Chittenden, the host of the True North Nerds podcast and the former co-host
Doesn't he
with
live
Adam.
in Barrie?
Yes, he did. He came down for the and we'll talk about the nerd market in a bit because he came down to the nerd market.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I talked with him briefly. It was the first time I'd seen him in years too. So we had a brief conversation. So and I met his wife, who seems like a lovely person. I'm not saying that sarcastically, Brent. Actually, the real purpose, like as I said, I want to get episode 5 in, but I especially want to get you back in, and I want to get your takes on recent things that have happened. Whether on a smorgasbord of stuff, whether it's stuff mentioned in recent episodes or recent news, and we'll get to that in a bit. So, we did want to mention this. We are taping this on Friday evening, October 19th, day 3 of marijuana legalization here in Canada. I know you want to. I'll give you a minute.
Oh,
Do you want to say anything about this? Because you said you wanted to mention this. We'd be taping just as
sure. I mean,
I'll give you maybe 2 minutes.
It's
just 2 minutes. I'll give you 2 minutes.
it is what it is. It happened. Good. I guess I don't know.
Well, let's just say the place seems quasi happy. Although there have been a few tickets for impaired driving already related to that.
I feel like that's just like that had nothing to do with it being legalized. I feel like that's just
somebody
whatever.
being dumb.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I think the place seems somewhat happier these days.
mean, I feel like even with it being legalized, stigma's still there. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's gonna be some time, and this could be this could be the decider for the Trudeau government going into the election next year.
Oh yeah,
this could be the last straw or the thing that.
I was
because
hearing,
right now that might be the only thing they have to say.
I mean, I was hearing all on the radio about Adam Schiff, the conservative, and how he might roll it back.
Oh, I heard that too.
And I'm like, how is that even like, wow, right?
Yeah, I know. There's the belief about rolling.
And then our voter turnout will be amazing if they really challenge.
Well,
that.
that's the other part. Be careful. Because the people who are Lord giveth, Lord taketh away.
I mean, that's one of those statements that will divide the country. That's just gonna push the rural and the urban voting even further away. Because I'm pretty sure people in rural country may not be super into the fact that it's all legalized now, but
it could be a generational thing too.
True.
Yeah.
Anyway, just a thought. I know you want to at least bring it up for a second. This isn't a pod show, but I thought it has been a pretty historic week in Canada for that reason. So I thought we had to at least regard it.
I will say, one of my coworkers' birthday was yesterday, and we went out for drinks after work, and we had a frank discussion about it, and it was just like talking about how.
Excuse me while I open my drink.
No, just talking about how certain people have never done it before. Like there was this one girl who said that she's tried it a few times, but just never liked it and so forth, and then she never did it again. And I'm like, okay, that's totally cool, you know?
Cool.
That's no one's gonna pressure you to do. You tried it, it's all good. You didn't like it, but then at the same time, people talk about alcohol nonstop, right? Constantly.
Yeah.
Like people will show up and be like, "Oh man, last night I drank so much," and then coworkers will be like, "Oh man, really? You drank how much?" And it's just like that's totally acceptable conversation,
And
right?
I got wasted.
Exactly, right?
And became the life of the party. One glass of red wine will make me throw up within an hour, just for
geez.
reference.
I don't drink at all. Just never have. Probably never will.
No, I can't do too much either. For that for the reason, like, and my friends have tried. Neil and Simon, his former roommate, they've tried to get me to drink. Squirrely has tried
Oh, really?
to get me to drink a few. Well, Squirrely had me try sake a few times, and it wasn't a bad experience. It's not something I'll do often, I'd fully admit, but it wasn't a bad experience. So I've drunk with Squirrely before.
You know, like, it's not that I don't like alcohol. I just hate paying for alcohol.
Oh, okay.
More like I hate paying the amounts that restaurants charge for alcohol.
Oh yes, it's insane.
And
It's I mean, it's a thing.
And very rarely will I drink because I just rather spend that $10 towards like an appetizer or dessert. Like, I don't know.
Yes,
I'd rather just like go to the LCBO, buy whatever I feel like, and then I can take it home and I can drink at my leisure. Like that's
fine.
how I like to do it. That's why whenever in university people would say, "Oh, like maybe we go out to the club or maybe we'll go to a house party." I always preferred house parties for that reason.
Yeah.
Because when you're in a nightclub environment, you definitely feel
Pressure.
that pressure. Yeah.
Definite pressure to spend. I mean, that's the whole point of what a nightclub is, right? I mean,
Yeah. DD was always my excuse.
Okay. I'll okay.
Call me lame, but whatever.
No.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
No issue with me. I mean, I couldn't do it any other way. Okay, so let's start to switch gears because we went over 2 minutes. Just for reference, and sorry about I had to open my drink, my own can of my own Arizona can
And
here.
I have just finished my.
Yes,
can,
you can help yourself to
and
another
I
the other
will
the
get
other
myself
one in the
another.
fridge.
Exactly.
There's another one in the fridge.
After the drink, yes.
I will tell you. I'll tell you this much. As I took a sip, I was reminded I went to the dentist earlier today. Okay, so one of the other reasons I want to invite you back, like you guys are here too. We were hoping Neil would show up because I know, like, Shamarke. We're gonna go, and since we now have two Mohameds on the roster for this show, we have to kind of refer to you guys, and we have to differentiate between you and Mr. Abdul Hadi, who
The elder and the younger, right?
yeah, either elder or younger, or by your last name initials, Mo S, and we can't really say Mo S and Mo A. Because that's asking for trouble.
That's good. That's good.
That's pretty good. Okay. But I know you guys wanted to talk, like, especially you, Mo, because you've never done an episode with Neil yet, I don't think.
Nope.
So
Well, I mean,
neither of you have done episodes with Neil. So, and I know people want to do an episode with Neil. He is, by all accounts, still coherent again. He is out enjoying the evening in downtown. That he does have, like,
seeing a terrific thing.
yes. So and I know you guys want to talk a little bit about, like, last time Neil was on with old Mohamed.
Yeah.
Like, any thoughts? Give me a thought, because we talked. James and I talked about it already last month. Is there something that came to mind from you guys about talking with Neil about Neil and old Mohamed on the show?
You know, I have to agree with Neil in that Yonge Street definitely is not as seedy as it used to be.
For better or worse?
I agree 1,000% on that. I used to work near Yonge and Bloor like 4 years ago. Like then and now, it's like day and night. Like they've torn all down, built these giant ass buildings, clean up the streets. Just so much better.
Better or worse? Because like some people say it had like the
Lost
seediness
character and
has that does have a charm to it.
I have to say, just because I don't have the same kind of nostalgia for Young that Neil has. So you could make the case that it's for the better. Now, personally, I'm upset because Harry Tarantula closed, and I know not everyone.
Oh shit!
Well, they're still around, but they only have that one location at Steeles and Young
they
now.
used to have 2 locations.
They had 3.
What was the third one? I remember the Junction.
It was like, yeah, I think it was the Junction one.
I used to live near the Junction, or like down there, and whatever. We're in a podcast. I'm pointing. But yeah, no, I mean that's the one you used to go to. That one in the downtown. What was the third one?
It was the one on Dundas West. I didn't know if it was at the Junction, so it must be that one.
It's Dundas West.
Then it was
Keel and Dundas.
Then they had the Young one, like the one near the Eaton Center, and then I think they did have that Steeles and Young one the whole time too. I could be wrong, but like I just remember 3 locations, and I don't know. I always felt like their sales were a little better than
the downtown one.
Just like Harry Tarantula as a whole, their sales for manga and anime were always like a little better in comparison to the other boutiques. Like in comparison to, say, Anime Extreme or Silver Snail or whatever.
I remember Anime Extreme. They're still open, right?
I think they're still around.
They're still around. Yeah,
they're still very much around.
They're still around.
I think the only well, I'm not going to say the only one left because I'm not really keeping up. To be quite honest with you.
Let's see.
Where else do people buy their mangas now, other than like chapters? I guess
The Beguiling is still there. They're at their new spot now. The Labyrinth is no longer in the annex. They opened an Oakville location, but like they had 2 stores and then they closed the annex location. Silver Snail still sells manga. I don't think 1 Million Comics sells manga anymore. I could be wrong.
Entirely possible. Did they? They didn't have an Anime North presence this year, did they?
Really?
I don't know. I
think they did, but I didn't really look around, to be honest.
Yeah, neither did I. So, I mean, we were so dialed into doing the episodes, and stalking the voice actress. So, well, that's but it is an interesting thought. Any others to come out from the episode from you guys?
I think the Yonge Street part was like the biggest.
We have yet to put up the sex toy brothel article.
Oh,
James keeps mentioning it to me, and I figure, and I should put that up in the link.
That got shut down, right? Like
it got shut down before it even started.
Just the idea of it. It's like, oh man, you must have so much confidence. So much confidence.
I was upset that they shut that down. Like, what does it matter? I don't know. Like, let people do what they want to do. Like, they're not harming anybody.
I mean, yeah, I guess. It's like,
well, I mean, look, we have to put the article up. I really have to put the art. I have to really
and free parking.
Put the article. Yeah, the free parking was well. Yeah.
Oh, the free parking in the rear. That's good. Well, there's those. What else is there really to mention about that?
When he mentioned how
when who mentioned?
I'm trying to remember. Oh, when Mohamed was talking about like the cons that were being held overseas there. That was a really cool segment.
Really cool thought.
Yeah,
he showed me a couple visuals, but yeah, it's an interesting thought. It's interesting about how fandom is. I mean, we see it mentioned. I mean, it's touched on, and like the odd thing I'll watch about fandom overseas, it's touched on. But to hear it like a real story about somebody who's actually been there. Mm-hmm. Remember, I always say this about old Mohamed. He's been places. He's seen things. And a lot of it can be quite ugly, and a fair amount of ugly things actually too. Because as I said, he lived through that. He lived through the Arab Spring. So he lived through the Arab Spring. So I always say he's seen stuff. So when he talks about these things in these terms, you listen too, because these are nice, interesting things, and that the world is. It's a lot more closer to your own than you think. Like the way it could be, the way it is in other parts of the world. We only hear these things in 24-hour news cycles.
Sure.
Oh, these things happened. This terrorist attack happened, or violence, or political instability. But when you dig down deeper, it's a pretty ordinary. A lot of places overseas are pretty ordinary too.
I just imagine their 24-hour news cycle. I mean, it's like, it's normal stuff like we go through, I guess, just like a normal place.
Yeah, fairly. So it has its own. There's a cosmopolitan part to it, a very cosmopolitan part that we don't see often enough unless you visit it yourself. And as I said, Mohamed's been places.
That he has.
So fascinating. At the same time, just for reference, we are also watching the Toronto Raptors Boston Celtics game at the same time as we're taping all this. What's the score?
End of the second. Boston's up 51-43.
Yes, this will be a litmus test. Anyway, okay, so that's and a dunk. Nice work, Ibaka. Okay, so that's at the heart. That's, I guess. Well, that's enough said about Neil and old Mohamed and Abdul Hadi's.
Those are what stuck out in my mind, at least.
Anything from you, Shamarke?
That's about it. Yeah.
Not much else. As I said, he's all, and I keep saying this, and I know, old Mohamed we'll hear this sooner or later. He's always welcome back. We'll just meet him, blindfold him, bring him back to the 6 Point studio.
So you're saying you're going to smuggle him
spot,
and then
after the episode we will release him.
So you're going to smuggle him into the country.
Well, I mean, he hinted at it.
And
Yes, he was released safely. Okay, so the other things I want to touch on. Okay, I hinted about meeting Brent and at the Nerd Market. Okay,
what's the
Nerd Market is a flea market put on by the University of Toronto Tabletop Gaming Club.
Okay,
and seemingly they held the second one. Seemingly they want to do this by semi-annually, I think.
Okay.
Kevin's done the first one. I did the second one, and I did it in the middle of my cold. But I've yet to fully clean up. If you notice to your right, gentlemen, you'll see a trolley which has the items that I brought to it. I didn't bring too much. I only brought those items. And
were you selling all those items?
The items in there, yeah. Okay. If anyone wants the swimsuit edition from the Dead or Alive video games, they are for sale. Inquire at animeroundtable@gmail.com or on our Twitter feed at Anime Roundtable.
Wait, you mean the game, right? Like
the game,
Extreme?
yes.
Which one?
Well, I'll show you the books later.
Okay.
So, here's the thing about doing this, and I touched on it on my mind segment last night that I put up last night. I keep your expectations low. I always said. I was told to keep my expectations low going in, so mercifully I didn't pack too much because, one, I wasn't feeling too well.
Yeah.
Well, that's the chief reason I didn't pack too much. But then that thought was in the back of my head. Be modest with your expectations. So when I packed maybe 3-4 boxes of items, I thought, okay, maybe this is enough for today. Yeah, much of it was anime, but I threw in some other stuff, some old video games, some old seasons of other shows. I had the first 2 seasons of Castle. Those are gone now.
Oh, okay.
So Castle
from what's his name? The TV show.
Oh, Nathan Fillion.
Nathan Fillion's. Nathan Fillion's.
I thought that's what it was, but then I'm like, is there an anime called Castle that I don't know about?
No. I had some non-anime stuff. So the first 2 seasons of Castle I had on DVD.
He has a good new show that just came out. The Rookie.
Yes.
Have you seen it?
No, I haven't. The only thing I've seen from the new season thus far.
Oh, okay.
Magnum PI.
Oh my god.
Which, because my father was such a big fan at the time. But here's the thing. But you know what made, and quick aside, you know what looking back, what made Magnum PI such a hit back then?
The mustache?
Tom Selleck, yes. Yeah. It's probably the same reason why Blue Blood still does so well today.
He has a following. He has a loyal, dedicated following.
And
Blue Blood is like not that. It's not a bad show, but it's not worth
It's
8
a
seasons or 9 seasons it's been on
It's
for like
still a Friday night winner, and but Tom Selleck is makes that show too very much.
That's true.
Not New Kids on the Block.
Nope. Not Donnie ain't got nothing to do with that.
He's not bad in it, but it's just that's what it is.
Exactly.
And by the way, legions among those legions of fans, my parents easily they PVR that show all the time. So my parents are big fans, and my dad. And for reference, my father thought Magnum was okay.
The new one?
Yes.
Okay.
He says by his standards, it's watchable, and it'll do enough just to stay on multiple seasons. Probably have a length not unlike Hawaii Five-0.
True. That was on for like what?
It's still going,
on. Wow.
and it's on the topic of 8 or 9 seasons, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Same length.
Those type of shows sneak up on you. Like I remember when it first came out, it was like, oh, Hawaii Five-0, and then 8 years later, it's still on.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Just like Grey's.
Just like Grey's 15. I think that's 15 now.
You know, it's funny. I watch a lot of medical dramas. The new ones, The Good Doctor.
Which is struggling.
It's not as good as the first season.
And tell me how this have you seen the Korean version of that?
No.
Okay, because I'm wondering how that compares. Maybe somebody, a Korean listener. We have listeners.
Anyone with K-drama knowledge, feel free.
Yes. Well. Anyway. So going back just a little bit. Okay, the nerd market. Mm-hmm. So I did do that. And I will tell you, and I keep saying, it's not as frantic as the Nomonoichi at Anime North. Mm-hmm. And certainly I didn't make nearly as much. I made cost and a little more. Mm-hmm. I was pretty happy with it anyway, because in my condition, I certainly wasn't in the mood to be too busy. And so I kept I listened to my friend's advice, kept my expectations modest, and I was pleasantly surprised, actually. The thing that stuck out about it is it's pretty well organized. Mind you, it doesn't have too much to deal with.
Where was it being held this year?
It's one of the U of T buildings. Oh, I forgot the name of the building. That's the problem.
It's like on Bloor. I don't remember the name, but it's on Bloor across from the stadium.
It's directly across the stadium from Varsity Stadium. Yeah,
that's like by the station. That's like by St. George Station.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. It's right. It's actually, you can. There's pretty much a tunnel between this building and the station itself. So
I always like when Toronto does that.
And it did something that I thought, boy, don't you just wish the Nomonoichi could do something like this? The payment method. They accepted payment strictly through through Interact transfer.
Wait, what?
Like the payment for the table, right?
Oh, for the table, okay.
Because at the time, because that made...
How does the Momonoichi do it?
You pay cash right at the event.
Right at the door.
That's dumb.
And it's
dumb.
It's a bottleneck. It becomes a bottleneck at the very beginning.
But for the Momonoichi to get a table there, you'd have to, I guess, register in advance.
You register in advance and hope they respond to you.
Get confirmation.
Mm-hmm. Which we went through that story earlier this year.
Oh, did you? Okay. So
but about not getting it.
About
myself not getting it.
Oh, okay.
I got mine though.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we went through that story, but the thing is, and I'm told that the nerd market sold out within minutes. By the way.
Oh, was it that bad? Wow.
No, that popular this time around. Yeah. So
all the tables.
I think what happened was
a couple dozen tables.
They still had some tables like a few days in. I guess maybe people committed but then dropped out.
That entirely possible.
So there was a waiting list, but then I know my first time around, like I kind of waited a bit too long, so I got put on the waiting list, and it actually got to me. So then I took it. So that's why I went in the end.
Tell me just quickly, a touch on your how did you do there? Because anime stuff doesn't I think being so anime heavy, it was anime heavy. But which may not have been I think there were complaints about that.
I don't think I made enough. I don't think I made enough to cover a shift at my part-time job at the time. Mm-hmm. But I definitely made cost and then some. I'd say I sold my complete set of Honey and Clover. That saved me, I think, because if I didn't sell that, I think I would have barely broke even.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm looking at the stuff that I sold. I only sold 2 anime items, and I had about a dozen items.
What did you sell?
The list is that piece of cardboard you see on the side of the sofa there. So the cross off items, you can pick it up if you want.
Yeah, because that was like $100 sale.
Oh, that's good then.
And then that was it. And like the rest were like little things.
Shamarke just picked up the list I brought to that. So, and the crossed off items were the items that got sold. So it wasn't much, as you
LA
can see.
Noir.
Yeah, I sold LA Noir, but for pretty cheap. Because really, I was never going to play.
Is that Infamous 1 for PS3?
Yep.
Wow, EB Games sells that for $3. So you did pretty well there.
Peace. I hope that guy is not listening. So, well, I mean, these are what they are. So that's the information. That's the stuff that you see there. Anything that
someone bought Shinesman? Jeez.
That's another story. I'll tell you that later.
Uh-oh.
So that's the modest list I brought, and I didn't bring, and there are a few items strewn that I thought maybe I shouldn't bring these to this event. Maybe save it for a Nomonoi, if assuming I'm able to do it, because if I remember, we're probably taping at Anime North next year, so I'll probably be focusing myself on preparing to do an episode at Anime North. So somebody else may be doing this for me. I may ask. I may ask my sis. I've been constantly telling my sister, "Do you want to do this? Do you want? I will buy your tickets to Anime North for you and your boyfriend if you're willing to do this if you want to do the flea market for me.
Or you could just leave an hour early.
I guess that's an option too. But the thing is the infamous studio, the portable studio. We have to make a decision what happens to that, because I need the space, right? The travel space. It's a thought. So that's just something we're thinking about for the future.
Cool.
While Kevin goes into the thing, blows his nose. I will say, having done the nerd market, I have no problems doing it again, because then I can come up with scrounge old items that aren't necessarily anime related, but probably could still find a market, find a buyer within this group, the group who comes to that. So I'm not going to discount it. As I said, pretty well organized. It doesn't.
Wait, how was the payment handled? Like,
it was through.
No, not for the when you were at your table and setting up. It's all cash.
In my case, yes. Okay. Some people, and yes, people did bring their own registers. Some people tried to use the mobile payments.
Yeah,
methods,
some people use Square. Yeah. Yes.
I'm not I can't really justify it right now to go that route myself.
I've thought about using Square for Nomanoichi, but then I just decided not to last minute.
Probably, yeah. I mean, if this is something you're going to do a little bit more often, maybe, but I just don't do it often enough to want to justify.
Because I always thought to myself, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be doing this. And I've done this for 5-6 years now. Same with I used to not buy a trolley.
We had this conversation.
Let me rephrase this properly. For 3 or 4 years, I couldn't justify buying a trolley. Even though I often struggled dragging my stuff into the convention hall like the dumbass I was. And then finally, I think it was year 4 or 5 where I caved and I thought, okay, I need to buy a trolley.
Because we had this conversation. Where do you find a trolley, right?
Yeah.
And where'd you get it? You got it at Costco eventually?
Yeah, I went to Costco.
Because I got this, the trolley I use, I've gone through 2. One more of a hand truck. This is a convertible that converts between hand truck and trolley.
Yeah.
But then they sold dedicated trolleys. I think that's the one you have.
Yeah.
And that looked pretty good. That looked like a fairly solid item. Just looking at it and having seen it in store it myself. So convenient.
I'd say so.
Store it properly. Just make sure. Obviously, you can store it somewhere. Maybe with the stuff you're going to probably sell in the future.
It's in the garage somewhere.
Yes. Same here. So, as I said, it was a worthwhile, this was a worthwhile endeavor, another opportunity. The thing about Nerd Market from Nomanoichi is the other part of it. You're not going to get, like I said, it's nowhere close to Anime North in terms of frantic pace and in turn sales. keep in mind, Anime North is considered one of the events of the anime social calendar in this part of the continent, in the certainly in Canada, and probably well, a key social date on the anime calendar, and maybe the Northeast the Northeast.
It's up there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Anime North,
Otakon.
Otakon, those Anime Expo. Those are like North is in that it has increasingly become in that stratosphere. So there's so because of that, it draws people from out of town.
Oh yeah.
Nerd Market isn't that type.
No.
It's a local thing. It's very much a local thing. So anyway, it was worth mention. That's the one thing I mentioned. A past tense anime community calendar event, because we joked around about James and I joked around. We should talk about events that are going to come up on the social calendar in the city in case people are interested. We would have mentioned Anime North does some. There's always something anime related. I think Anime North does some Halloween thing at the JCCC,
They
which
usually
isn't
do.
happening this year.
Oh, it's not.
I don't think it's happening. I heard that was postponed this year, so we'll check that on the break. I got for final confirmation, but I heard it wasn't. So I remember seeing this, reading something about that. But the events like this, we should mention more. We'll try and mention more often. But as I said about Nerd Market, worth the try. Probably do it again. At least I can feel more safe trying another variety of stuff. Probably bring older video games. If anyone's interested in the Robotech PS2 game.
Oh jeez.
Well, we'll talk. Anyway, let's. Sorry. We're gonna try and do a good chunk of this in one take. Or do you want to get your second?
We're good.
Okay,
let's power on through.
Yeah, go. Well, okay, so let's go into some of the heart of the other part I want to talk to you about, Mo.
Okay.
Because since I just put Kevin on the spot over one part,
Okay.
over doing the Nerd Market. Here's the other thing I want to talk. You recommended to me the Bleach live action, and I brought this up last night in my segment when I was talking about things on my mind. You encouraged me to give the Bleach live action movie a watch on, which is a Netflix exclusive, and for what it was, I enjoyed it. But as I said, and as I mentioned then, that was the first time I ever watched anything related to Bleach. So, this is the dilemma, and it made me think about the dilemma about the trend over the last 20 years, I guess, of superhero movies. Mm-hmm. Making something that's approachable for both diehard fans who are familiar with the material from the past, and then appealing to somebody who has never seen these before.
It's like walking a tightrope.
It is walking a tightrope, yes. The thing is, like when I watched Kenshin, I knew a lot about that. When I watched something related to X-Men, at the very least, I had watched the animated series back in the 90s. I think it was the 90s.
Yeah, it was.
It's the original series. So I had some familiarity already with watching that. Batman goes without saying. Yeah. Superman goes without saying. So Wonder Woman goes without saying. So I've mentioned 3 DC stuff, and DC has depending on who you ask, sucks.
I don't know, man. We'll see. James Gunn's gonna get in there and try to wrangle up a winner.
Mm-hmm. But we talk about that. We talk about superhero movies in those terms, and then when you add that conversation an adaptation of a Japanese manga or a Japanese anime. Yep. That takes on another layer of debate. How to make that appeal to a larger crowd, and maybe an overseas, even more of an overseas crowd than usual, because it doesn't have the Hollywood machine usually to help.
Exactly. I mean,
or more like if it makes an attempt on it, it probably shoots itself in the foot.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, for what it was, I enjoyed it. But what was what worked with Bleach for you? Because you said you liked it.
I really enjoyed their adaptation of the source material. In situations like this, the creators would stick to it, like to the letter. But the Bleach, the source material isn't really, I guess, built for live action. Like there's a lot of nuances.
Everyone
and
said
stuff.
that. Yes, I think you're not the first person. I've heard that line before.
What did it adapt?
So it's literally the beginning.
And for reference, Kevin is quite well versed in the Bleach manga. So even though he hasn't seen the live action yet,
the first arc where Ichigo gets his powers, and then Rukia kind of trains him. But instead of the whole thing with Rukia being forced to go back and then him training to go fighter and stuff like that, they reworked it where it was Rukia's brother shows up early, and then kind of, I guess, forces. It's been a while since I've seen it, but can you pick up as to what the brother wanted from?
Oh yeah, because he becomes one of the more primary antagonists.
Right. It basically they were using them to beat a giant hollow that they couldn't beat for some reason.
Was it Grand Fisher?
Yeah.
I think so. Yes,
and because apparently that was the same hollow that killed his mom.
Yes.
But instead of doing the whole thing where Rukia at the end is still sentenced to be killed, they just like, it's okay, all's forgiven.
All's forgiven, but then Rukia's kind of abandons him. Yeah. So
I enjoyed the little side touches with the Chad and what's the girl's name again?
Orihime,
yes.
Yep. They didn't overdo it.
Mm-hmm. It's cool. Like they didn't. I think I think you might have hit it on the head. They just didn't try too hard. Like they didn't try to do too much with it. The source material.
The story was simple. I mean,
they kept it very simple. And reading up a little bit more about the Bleach story, this gets long. I mean, there's a reason it got 76 volumes.
74, if 74? I'm not mistaken.
It went 74 volumes, and really they only covered a couple.
Yeah, I mean,
it wasn't that long.
The movie basically, the idea was not to leave it open-ended. Like this movie feels finished. Like this is it.
And if this is all they ever make,
exactly,
okay, fine.
Exactly. It was
we can live with this
ending.
Closure.
Exactly.
With Kenshin, they made it clear they'll do a couple more. But I know that and I haven't seen all of it, but I know by the end of the third movie, it had closure. So that you can end the story right there, and it didn't let itself get too far. So I think that might have been the strength of the Bleach movie. It didn't let itself get too far and let itself get too out of hand.
I mean, not to mention, I think the overall art direction was just great. I enjoyed the fight scenes; they were really great.
Yes,
like the effects are good. They didn't overdo it. Like I don't know if you guys have seen the Full Metal Alchemist live action.
No.
Which I would like to keep my hours.
Okay,
thank you. But I know that the reviews weren't very good.
Bad.
It's not that it wasn't good, but it wasn't like horrific or anything. It's just that there's a lot of special effects involved with Full Metal Alchemist. Like with Bleach, it's sword fighting. A lot of it's just sword fighting, right? So they can do that. I mean, there's that CGI hollow that he fights, but for the most part, it's sword fighting. But with Bleach, with Full Metal Alchemist, it's like transfigurations and stuff and pulling. It's a lot of special effects that just didn't really work.
Remember what you just said about the source material, Bleach's source material, the original manga doesn't lend itself to live action. Could you say that about Full Metal Alchemist? Should this have even been attempted?
Unless they completely rework it, I guess, right?
Or they needed more money.
And other the way you make
a lot more money.
The way you make this one sound though is this shouldn't have even been tried.
The Full Metal?
Yeah. That's the impression I'm getting the way you talk about it.
It really shouldn't have. I mean, they try to stick to the source material with the kids and they're bringing the mother back and all that, and then flashbacks. And it's just very convoluted and very not appealing. Like the way the Bleach movie has a simple story that you can follow, progresses the way normal movies progress, and it ends in a nice, conclusive way. Full Alchemist didn't do that. They threw a lot of flashbacks and flash forwards, terminology you might not have known. Like if you hadn't already seen the source material, you'd be lost at points. And then the overall conclusion was just not what you wanted. It was kind of.
I think that's the key thing. Remember the dilemma. We talked about the classic dilemma: appealing to somebody who's never seen it before.
True.
And something tells, and once again, even though Full Metal Alchemist, and full disclosure, I do own the original DVDs because that was part of Comic Den's final fire sale because I was able to snag them.
Okay.
So I have them. I haven't watched them, although they'll probably end up on a Nominoichi table in the near future. So, but the thing is, something tells me if I tried to watch this live action, I'd have trouble.
A little bit.
Yeah. Bleach, I didn't have that type of. I never felt like I had that type of trouble.
They kept the world, the universe, everything. They kept it just small. They never once mentioned anything about the captains or the other world they're from, like their hollow world or the Shinigami world.
Not at length, anyway. We just knew it existed.
Exactly. I mean, obviously there was a captain and his vice captain, but they never go into how there's like 12 others and a whole society and all that other stuff. Ishida's in there, Quincy's in there, but for like, and that backstory's not touched on too much, right? I mean, they just give you little hints of flavors here and there. Like there's a scene in the movie with Chad helping to block a giant thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, in the restaurant, in the
right.
fast food
I mean,
joint.
that's a tiny hint
Of his
powers to people who,
and I read up later on and says yes, he does become a fairly significant character as time goes.
I mean,
and so is Orihime for that matter.
The way they surgically added that small scene to leave it open for a sequel. That's how all movies should do it. It shouldn't be like a forceful, open-ended thing, right? It should be small tidbits here and there that can hint at future things. That doesn't distract from the overall movie, you know.
Yeah.
Wait, so Chad, Orihime, and Uryu like played a significant factor in the show?
In this movie? Not really.
Not really. They were side characters. Chad's just a dude you see. He's a dark-skinned dude you see sitting around reading books. Like he's like in the background of every scene kind of thing, right?
Okay.
Plus, let's not forget, each goes in high school, so there's a lot of high school scenes.
Yes.
Did they show any of those, like, you know how they have their friends that you don't really see? Were they were all there too?
They were all there.
Okay.
The one friend who kept mentioning him dying. They had funny jokes. That was a funny joke. I like that whole bit.
Oh yeah, the whole he died.
I know. It was a good bit.
And then he gets smacked in the back of the head.
Exactly. Like
by
small hints like that make people who watch the anime feel connected more to this movie. Like that's something that totally would happen in anime.
And that's what worked for it. It's these things that seem to work.
I think I would like this adaptation then.
It's really good.
I loved those first 16 episodes of Bleach. Like, I played that Orange Range song into the ground. Like, I loved that song. The vibe was so cool for Bleach when I was younger.
Well, the thing is, the only other, like, up until then, and my only other encounter with Bleach, and I didn't know it at the time. First of all, I've constantly seen pictures of Ichigo, whose name I only knew as I watched the movie, by the way.
Kurosaki.
Yes, and then the only other thing I'd encountered was the leak spin.
The what now?
Orihime's leak spin, which was like a GIF, which was like a popular GIF back in the day. What are you playing?
Oh man, it's high school all over again.
It's the Bleach opener.
There you go.
But strangely enough, I like the TV edit a little more than the full song.
They cut it a little differently, yeah.
Any song, yeah. Any song is a thing. And any song, for reference, is just a term I've learned recently.
It just makes me sad how it all ended.
What, Bleach?
Yes.
No spoilers.
The way I see it is, Bleach ended when the whole thing with Aizen was resolved. After that, Bleach is no longer Bleach. Bleach ended there at episode, like 330 or something. Everything afterwards is not Bleach.
There's a jump the shark moment here. It sounds like there's a jump the shark moment.
It's go for it.
You can tell he ran out of... he didn't run out of ideas, but... How do I put this? He dragged it out too long. and evidently, Shueisha was getting fed up with him too, because I think it's been reported that Bleach did get canceled.
At some point?
Like, the way it ended, it was rushed. Because the way, like, they really rushed those last 10 chapters, so you could tell that they finally were fed up and they're like, okay, you got like X amount of issues, clean this up.
And finish it.
Yeah. And like Bleach's popularity was waning ever since
That ending.
that Aizen arc ended. So, and he had more that he wanted to tell, but it's just like
But it was such a perfect conclusion to everything. It's like I'm trying to think of something to compare it to. Do either of you watch Supernatural?
I didn't.
no.
I know of it.
Okay.
Like everything else, there's a lot I don't really watch.
Yeah,
No, it's
I
cool,
know.
it's cool.
I know how my female friends were shipping those
brothers?
together. Yeah, that's all I really know about Supernatural. That there's brothers.
Supernatural, the first like 5 seasons told a nice arc story of like how they became hunters. Basically, the show's about these 2 brothers who hunt supernatural things.
Wasn't there briefly an animated adaptation?
There
too?
is an
There
anime
is an
of
anime,
it.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But yeah, the first 5 seasons tells this perfect arc of this demon who. It's on the first episode. This demon kills their mother, and that's how they get into the business of hunting demons and so forth. 5 season, perfect arc. Should have ended by like season 5. There was this giant wave of popularity. Teenage girls really started watching it, and they were like seeing dollar signs in their eyes. So they just kept going, and there were like 13 seasons now.
It's still going.
It's still go.
What?
I think season 14 just started last week.
Oh my god!
And I blame Hot Topic and the Hot Topic shopping individuals for keeping this thing going.
Like I knew at like 8 or 9 seasons it was still going on. I thought
know,
it finally petered out.
I don't know how. See, I try to keep a little bit onto the story, but they got to the point where God was like one of the main characters, and then they killed God, but then God had a sister. It jumped the shark and then came back and jumped it a dozen more times. It just went out there.
It just became Shark Week.
Oh man.
Well, there's at least thanks for the thoughts. Okay, so actually, let's recharge a bit. I do want to talk about at least one of the other Netflix recommendations I made in the thing last night, and then obviously there's been streaming service news in the last 24 hours. Let's take a break. We'll rev it up and talk about those last 2 items when we return. It's the Anime Roundtable on the Six Talk Podcast Network. And the podcast now continues on this Friday evening, October 19th, 2018, in front of, well, it's an empty studio. In front of an empty studio, online via the Six Talk Podcast Network, official podcast, Anime North. Nicolas with you. Nicolas, Shamarke, and Ing in conversation. How far into that second can have you gotten?
Half.
I'm about halfway done my first can. Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit and maybe revisit. Okay, because you both of you have mentioned to me you haven't listened to the On My Mind, which has only been up 22 hours, so it hasn't been up for too long. So don't worry. You have plenty of excuses. Don't worry. I'm not mad about that. Probably a good thing that you haven't heard it yet because you're hearing parts of it now.
Cool.
Okay, so a thought. Once again, I made 3 recommendations, 3 Netflix recommendations in all of this. And so Bleach was one of the first ones. The second one was Flavors of Youth. Mm-hmm. And I want to at least get a thought on this one, because this caught my attention. And I think you've both seen it?
I saw it.
You've seen it? Have you seen it?
I have not seen it.
You have not seen it.
I have not
Okay.
seen it.
Well, I will put that away later. Okay, so impression. Just give a general impression, Kevin, of from when you saw it.
So it's been several weeks since I've seen it.
I mean, I'll elaborate on what I said in the monologue in the On My Mind.
Okay.
It's been several weeks. Saw it with 3 or 4 friends. It was at a friend's house, and they have Netflix, so that's how I saw that.
Because you don't.
Because I don't and refuse to.
Why? Why do you refuse to?
I'll get into this later. And
Probably in the last part.
Okay.
And we watched the English dub,
Ah, okay.
and the dub was not bad.
Crispin Freeman is in it. I know
Yes, he's in the first segment with the.
that. Noodle soup guy.
Yeah,
And
he's the
in the
noodle
last
soup guy.
and then he's in the last segment, I believe, too. So
And I don't know, because so it's 3 stories, right? It's the noodle soup guy, and then the fashion woman, and then the guy who
who tries to pursue the girl he likes.
Yeah.
It's a high school, but he ends up in the high school, but she doesn't.
yes. So it kind of gave me some like 5 centimeter vibes a little bit.
Oh, well, that's sort of inevitable when you figure it's comics.
Yes.
Comics films, right? It's
Yes.
like, I mean, these are like, it had the feel of previous comics films that Makoto Shinkai did with them. So,
And I would say the third short film had that resemblance the strongest.
yes. Almost
other
without
two,
a doubt,
yeah.
because, Makoto Shinkai is always about lost love and how it evolves or fails over time. And that's basically the crux of that last story.
And then I guess I would say the noodle soup one I didn't expect to like, but I enjoyed it.
I got hungry. Like I joked about it. It felt like an episode of Tokyo Diner Midnight Stories, the
okay.
popular live action, which was a manga to start. It's never been animated, but it was made into a live action. Live action, I think, is great. 10 episodes of the most recent a recent season is on that as a Netflix exclusive. I'm itching to see them to add more. I have the movie, which is I still have yet to, the 2 movies, I have yet to watch them. But that's what it felt like. That's what the noodle soup episode felt like.
It was just like the first part was feel good and like, yeah, like, I went to this place and it's just the way that like we made it back at home. Like it was like that kind of
And he said,
talk.
then
And it just made me feel warm. I was like, yeah.
Then I tried a new place. That place closed. Tried a new place. It was still pretty good. Just
Went to
different.
this chain. It kind of sucked.
Yes,
Like,
and
well,
then-
he didn't say that, but
Basically,
he
yes.
alluded to that.
Yes.
And it was sort of meandering a little bit, I felt. But at the same time, it's like, you know what? I'm okay with this. Like, it's just...
I think that was the point, though.
It's like you're just listening to someone talk about their past. And...
Especially since it talked about his grandmother.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, I'm not bored by this. It's like kind of cool. It's like when you're meeting up with a friend and he's just, or like maybe you're doing it in a project and you need to like record someone talk about what they did in their life. It's like one of those where it's like, oh yeah, it's kind of interesting.
I mean, I like this, but out of the 3, that's the one that stuck out to you the most? Or
Uh,
are they all, like the middle one, I think it was charming, but I mean, that's probably the one that sticks out to me the least, the middle one. I mean, I liked it.
I was a little biased because it talks about fashion.
Yes.
So
Oh, yes. We'll talk Kimono.
So it was you can relate to the woman's struggles in that one. And you
Self-worth, fleeting self-worth.
and you can relate to how like the little sister was like, yo man, I just
want to spend time.
want to spend time with you. It's like when you're young and like your parents can never justify spending time with you because they have to work like 6-7 days a week just so they can put food on the table. Because that was my home situation when I was young. So that's how I connected with it too.
Okay. So there's a personal link there.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, as I said, I liked it. I mean, I had my own reasons for liking it, and we have our own reasons for liking anything we want, liking or disliking things we watched. So, I mean, I'm glad that one connected. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the thing that sticks out about me is the thing that always stuck out to me about Flavors is where it stands in terms of everything Comics has done. Like I said, I drew the parallel with Ocean Waves. Wait. Did we get that? Did that? I don't know if that got picked up on the microphones. Kevin had to. He got slaughtered. No, I was thinking to myself, this is one of those key moments for comics films because it's the first thing they've done the first thing I'm aware of that they've done without Makoto Shinkai's participation. Yet it had a lot of those hallmarks of things done with Makoto Shinkai.
Yeah, like a lot of these stories were, what was it? I believe they were, they had a lot of Chinese staff involved.
Yes, because of the Howliner Howliner Animation Group, because of the Shanghai based company that this was a co-production with. So, but as I said, this might be a key project because now we'll also get to see what comics themselves are made of without Shinkai.
It was just good to see that, like, you know what, the Chinese can make. The Chinese can tell good stories and adapt that into animation. Because, like, in China, it's like most cartoons are like kids' cartoons. They're pretty, like, rudimentary.
Yeah, I was about to say rudimentary or childish.
So
maybe childish is overstating too. But
and not to say that I know there are a couple of notable exceptions whose names draw a blank right now, but it was just reassuring to see that, you know, like there are, you know, with their 2 billion people, like there are people that can make a decent work, and it's encouraging to see that there are other countries that can turn out a decent product, because I know, like, we all look at South Korea too, and
I can't say I'm familiar, but yes,
like, they don't always make, like, you don't really know any like great animation things that have popped up in South Korea recently. Not that I can think of.
Simpsons, no.
Well, obviously we know them also for their music and their dramas these days.
Yeah, like
Dramas especially. Yep.
so it's like, I don't know. I think it's like it's just reassuring to see. It's like, you know what? We don't have to always rely on Japan and the US for like good animation that tells a good story.
Well, keep in mind this is still a Japanese studio that is most noteworthy.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I get the feeling there's lessons for Howliner from what they learned from this.
So it's like, I felt like this was a bit of a litmus test just to see what they can do.
Pass?
I'd say so.
Give me a letter grade. B?
I'd say a solid B.
I say a solid B. I'd agree with that. The thing about it was, and this is and I stated this as a gripe, and maybe one of you guys can at least give me some insight on this. It was in Japanese, yes. It was in English, yes. This is a Chinese story. It wasn't in Mandarin, or at least the available audio tracks, at least in this in the what Netflix released, and it's referred to as the international version of it.
Do they have Netflix in China?
Nope.
I don't think so.
Nope, they don't. They don't.
What's their streaming service?
It's a domestic based one, but which I don't know too much about. Although for some strange reason, Shane McMahon's name comes up for some strange reason and all when I think about it, because I think he was involved. For one of his side jobs was he was involved in a streaming service based in China, like one of the things he did while he was away from WWE.
It is that one. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, is this the same Vince McMahon of
Yes.
wrestling? Okay,
Yes.
all right.
Yeah. No, like Shane. Thing about Shane is people don't realize this guy knows stuff. Like through his experience working with WWE, he's learned a lot. I mean, yeah, we make fun of it all the time because of the side of the circus show that pro wrestling is, but he knows stuff. And when he left them some years back, he became probably a wanted man in the entertainment industry because of what he learned from working under his dad. And the politics people, and then people always said it in the politics of the WWE, he left it initially because it became obvious he wouldn't be the successor. It would be Stephanie and Triple H.
True.
And he's back there, and while Shane is still present now, it's pretty obvious that Stephanie and Triple H will be the ones to take over when the time comes. I think, as far as I could tell, anyway. Pro wrestling fans may correct me, but that's the impression I get. But Shane has very much forged his own path by all accounts. Anyway, going back to Netflix, yes, they're not in China. So, but they're, because they believe in their own domestic services, much like the same reason I don't think Facebook is there.
Yeah, they have their own social medias.
Yes, social medias, Weibo, etc.
Yeah,
So.
exactly, yeah.
So I don't know in what form something like Flavors of Youth would have been available. Not totally. I'd have to look that up.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if it does exist. It's just whether or not it was made available to us or not.
It probably exists, but yes, it's just plain not available to us. But I'm wondering the story behind that. Why a Mandarin track wouldn't have been available to listen to viewers outside of China itself? It's just a thought, because like I said, these are Chinese stories. I'd like to hear it in Chinese too. These are very Chinese stories.
Yeah.
Okay,
it would have been nice.
I know you haven't seen it yet.
I haven't. I'm sorry I couldn't add to this conversation.
Well, is there a thought? I mean, any curiosity what it may mean? As I said, I drew the parallels between everyone. If you're going to draw the parallel between Shinkai and Miyazaki, you're going to draw parallels with everything associated with them too. Comics, Studio Ghibli. So in this case, Flavors of Youth is essentially Comics' version to me of Ocean Waves, because Ocean Waves was the first noteworthy project Studio Ghibli did without Miyazaki. In some ways, so I look at Flavors the same way when it comes to comics and Shinkai, and I'd say it picked up on the themes that made them so noteworthy. And it felt, it felt light, but we expected it to feel somewhat light. And
I'd say so.
And how do you? And to be fair, how do you follow up? Because how do you follow up from Your Name anyway?
You don't.
You
no,
don't.
Yeah,
well, no,
you don't.
it's tough. You just try and make something that says, oh, that was worth watching. Not necessarily a masterpiece, but say, hey, that was time well spent. This was, I thought, time well spent. That's all I can. That's like, how long was it? A little over an hour?
I'd say so. Yeah. I would say it was interesting. I was talking to my friends about it afterwards, and they, more or less thought it was like, yeah, that was nice. Because they seemed a little bored at first, but then they slowly got drawn into it little by little.
Mm-hmm.
So, because we finished the movie, you think if you got that bored, you would just watch something else, but they stuck with it.
Yeah. And I thought it's a no-brainer. When I think about it, it's a no-brainer for anybody who was ever into Shinkai stuff. Because as I said, it becomes a nice discussion in and of itself. What can comics do without Shinkai? And I think the answer is, it might be pretty good. I think it's at least okay. Okay, so give it that a watch. See, now I brought up two projects that, one of you watched, the other hasn't, and then vice versa. And then the third thing I mentioned was Us and Them. Neither of you have watched it. It is not anime. I constantly will say, watch it. Cool. And have a box of Kleenexes next to you. But I can't say enough about that one. I can't say enough about that one right now, because that's going to stick in your head when you've watched it. And if you're, to our female listeners, to our female listeners out there, if you're a sucker for romance dramas, a la, let's say, The Notebook, this, I say, would be a good watch for you. Highly recommended. And I keep mentioning this to my coworkers at work, and a lot of them are Chinese, and they already recognize a few of the names associated with the movie. So, and this is, I think, the highest grossing film in China thus far this year.
Oh, really?
Them. So, I think, I think it certainly at the point that Netflix picked it up back in May, it was the highest grossing to that point, and I think it's still maintained that role thus far this year.
I mean, to be fair, Crazy Rich Asians has not been released in China yet.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
No, that's true.
I've been meaning to watch that.
I've been meaning to watch that too. It's strange, because my sisters have read the books, so I think my middle sister, she's, I think, in the second or third book in that series. She's reading the sequel. My sisters are well versed in these things, and I often have to borrow books from them because they talk about some topical items. Oh, since we didn't mention this back then. Sorry, a cough button's not working. Okay, so I'm going to throw something just quickly, because I didn't mention it. We haven't mentioned it at any point because we've been away for 2 months. You knew about the Aum Shinrikyo executions? Oh, you didn't know about the sarin gas attack? You remember
I
this?
know of it. Like, I've heard about it.
Okay.
But I didn't know the executions happened, though.
They happened in the early part and the latter part of July. So about 12, 13 of members were hung in July, and that made big news. That made big news,
Was
obviously.
that the Japanese terrorist group?
Yes. The cult that became the terrorist group, the sarin gas attack in the mid-90s.
Right.
So that killed.
I heard about the execution.
Yes. Just for reference, Haruki Murakami, the famous Japanese author, he actually wrote a book about the gas attacks where he ended up interviewing people involved, family members and people involved in all of that. And just after the attacks happened, he wrote an op-ed, an opinion piece, just after the first set of the executions happened. I don't know if it was the first wave or the second wave, in earlier and then late July. And he said, generally, I'm against executions and capital punishment. Mm-hmm. But after learning the story, after writing the book, because he wrote the book he wrote, he said he can't be in this case. For this case specifically, that's how much he's still haunted by the story to this day. Quite a thing for him to say, and he doesn't say too much about current events, but as far as I could tell. But when he spoke, it was worth listening to. But that's another aside. It was quite the story at the time. I remember that because I was finishing high school myself when it happened. Well, I don't lie about my age. So, and I know that I talked about that with my English teachers at the time too, because I was in a creative writing class. So we talked at length about that because at the time of the attack, people hinted that had been depicted in fiction already. So, as I said, it was quite the story at the time, and too bad we couldn't cover it at the time it happened on the show. But just a quick thought. Meanwhile, how are the Raptors doing?
We're up by 8, last minute of play in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
I think we're going to win this one, guys.
I think they might be able to hold on. Okay, so we put that one. So let's put that one aside. On the topic, though, of Netflix and streaming services, obviously, there's been some key news in the anime news cycle, anime news 24-hour news cycle. And that involves Crunchyroll and Funimation. They ended their they're going to end their agreement. And I mean, I want to touch on this because James isn't here. I know he'll talk more at length, but I don't know what to make of this. I mean, here I was just about to take out a Crunchyroll subscription, but I'm holding back, obviously.
How big is this going to affect their library?
Ooh, this will be interesting because they were in the process of adding backlog Funimation titles in subtitle format, because when that agreement happened, Funimation stopped putting subtitled content on their website. You can only watch the dubs.
Yeah, you can only watch the dubs on Funimation now.
So it's so what's going to happen now?
They made an agreement with somebody else, and I forgot their names. I really should get myself more well versed.
Are they doing their own streaming? I mean, they have their own streaming service, isn't it?
Funimation? Yes, Funimation now.
Yeah. So they're just going to push harder on that?
Yeah, seemingly, yes. Or it could be part of the further consolidation. I mean, it is Sony. Right? We are talking Sony now with Funimation, right?
True.
And they ended their Crackle service.
Plus, what was going on was that because Funimation will just pick up a bunch of new shows every season, mm-hmm. So they would air the subtitled version on Crunchyroll, mm-hmm. and then when Funimation eventually does what they call their simul-dubs, they would just air it on Funimation.
It seems very convoluted. Like, was this just a money issue? I mean, like...
Well, I mean, everyone said this sort of was coming anyway, because of the ownerships of both entities. I think AT&T bought out the parent company of Crunchyroll recently.
And then Sony bought Funimation. Mm-hmm. So Gen Fukunaga is laughing his way to the bank. But
oh yeah, that's a line that even James mentions, because again, somehow keeps his job.
On winning.
He keeps on winning. Keeps on winning. Good man. He must be I would call him the smartest man in the anime industry in North America, just for reference.
Doesn't know how to quit.
Well, he must be doing something right. But I guess it leads to question, like what type of it does lead to have its share of questions. And one, I'm not totally sure as to which ones, much less their answers. Like, I need a first blush from you guys on this.
It's gonna be tough. I mean, this reminds me of the whole Netflix, Disney, and
that's gonna happen pretty soon too. Like this is coming. There's a bunch of fragmentation coming in the streaming services. Like this is the winter is coming.
I feel like, I have higher hopes for the Disney streaming service than I would Funimation and their streaming service, only because Disney isn't just relying on their old properties to win over viewership, but producing a ton of new content, right? Is Funimation going to start acquiring a ton of new things?
I think my thinking is this might be part of a broader thing by Sony themselves.
Okay.
Because, as I said, this is Sony, and I think they, it doesn't...
Are they going to do that thing where they force you to buy another Sony product and we're going to get this product kind of thing? Or are they going to start bundling up services, make it an all-in-one type of situation?
Who knows? That's the problem.
Because that'd be good if you get if Sony had a one subscription for all of our Sony things.
Well, that's the thing. Could they be coming out with an Uber streaming service, like a Uber streaming service that has a variety of bunch of things, anime or their own movies, their own productions, etc.
You mean what Amazon's doing?
Allah. Yes, something to that effect. You can't put it past them, and Sony has enough of a history that they could do this. Hey, PlayStation is their thing too, yep. And where could it boggles the mind where this could end up going with the end of Crackle in Canada. Okay. I don't know where it stands in the States these days.
I'm not saying PlayStation has live streaming TV in the States, right? PlayStation View.
Okay.
Oh.
So, but service, yeah. and I get it. Everything under the Sony banner is fragmented enough as well. So we can only guess. Yeah. But I get the feeling this could be part of a bigger thing. This could be part of a bigger thing for Sony.
Yeah.
Can you hear that, folks? Sorry. But I just thought it's a food for thought. And from the consumer end, from a consumer end, myself personally, okay, I guess I'm holding off on a subscription to something. Mm-hmm. I guess I'll just stick with the Netflix subscription for now.
This war of streaming services, it's just going to end with one company owning the rest of them at some point, right? I feel like a big power player like Amazon or maybe like Apple or something, you just swoop in there and just buy out Sony and all their content.
Well, we've seen a version of that with Disney and Fox.
True. Oh man, that would be awesome. Disney just won. If Disney just purchased Netflix and was like, we own Netflix now,
I'm not totally sure that's a good thing. I like competition too, but
it's good. But I'd rather have one streaming service than 5 streaming services.
That's the thing. As a consumer, is this good? Is this not good? I love competition too, but
those days ended a long time ago. I'm sorry. It was nice when Crunchyroll had pretty much every single anime that season or whatever, but you knew that once the big companies saw the money. It was going to end, and now it's you have to... Is Hulu still around in the States?
Hulu is still...
Yeah. So, I don't know if they still get exclusives, but, you have the Netflix exclusives, and you have the Amazon exclusives, and then ADV/Sentai is now doing their thing, and,
I heard this great future argument in regards to the future of Netflix and its biggest competitor, and the argument was that Netflix's biggest competitor is actually YouTube, in the sense that it costs YouTube nothing for their content because people just give them content, right?
Yeah.
As where Netflix has to spend millions of dollars to produce content, right? If the end goal is just viewership, YouTube's winning day and night, right?
Yeah, because they can offer it for free.
Yep.
But then again, how do they make their money? But they do.
Exactly. I mean,
And quite honestly, people complain about like, oh, I can't have all my stuff in one convenient package, but really, if you want to watch that show badly enough, the internet's still there for you to pirate whatever the hell you want.
oh, come on, man. It's 2018. Let's not pirate anymore.
Well, it's the problem is that's part of but that's part of the debate right now in light of this separation.
And this is why this barely affects me as a consumer. So I don't care if there's 5 different services, because quite frankly, I don't pay for any of them. Crunchyroll, I don't need to watch something the second it comes out. I will wait that 1 week. Commercials, I don't care. I'll go like take a piss or get some food in the meanwhile. And I'm with a friend, I'm sorry, I'm putting that ad block service up. If I'm by myself, I leave the ads on. Now, Netflix, yeah, I don't watch TV. I don't watch North American TV shows. That's where most of Netflix's value comes from. That and the movies. Movies, don't really care. Like, I remember the last episode I was with you, I told you how infrequently I go to the theater.
yeah.
So, if I really want to see something badly enough, I'll go to my friend's house. He has Netflix. Or if I really wanted, I know Mike's offered me to use his Netflix before too, but it's like, I don't feel the need to pay for Netflix. I'm sorry. Like, I get why people do it, and it's a great service, but just don't care. Don't need it. I don't need it in my life.
How do you then like discover new things?
Going to people's houses, and they'll show it there.
I mean,
So let's see. In terms of like anime, though, I'm watching Banana Fish. Love it. I think that's an Amazon exclusive, but I remember when Amazon was like, you had to pay for Amazon Prime and then you had to pay for the anime section. I was
Banana Fish. Wow.
I'm like, fuck that. I'm not gonna pay. Like, I don't think they
No,
2-tier charge you anymore.
It's all inclusive now.
It's all inclusive now, yeah.
so-
But I don't. The fulfillment center is like not far from me. If I need to order anything, it comes in like 3 days anyway, so I don't need to pay for Prime. So to me, it's like, am I gonna really pay the yearly membership just to watch like 3 anime shows? No.
I know Elementary is on Prime.
And
do you have Prime?
No, I don't.
oh,
I
you
know
don't
it's
have
there.
Prime? Okay. I had like the student Prime, which doesn't give you the content. They don't give you like the TV content anyway. But I could be wrong.
That's not a bad selection. I have Prime, by the way. I'm just cruising through their Japanese section. If you
Oh,
would
okay,
like to
yeah.
take a
No,
look.
I can see it. Okay, thanks.
And the selection's pretty good on like all accounts, but it's just like, you know what? If I don't want to pay for 4 services just to watch all the anime I want. So I'm sorry, if I have to bootleg something, I will. I bought the manga. I own the manga for Banana Fish.
Yes.
I
When you
probably
brought that, when you brought up that name, I was thinking, "Whoa,
Yeah,
Flash,
because they finally animated it, because it was
that's like that ran in the '80s and to mid '90s."
yes, and like that's an anniversary. Like it's like, I think this year was one of the anniversaries for Banana Fish. I don't remember how long exactly.
Oh, I think it's its 30th.
So
Let me just check. Let me just look this up quickly.
So it's like
85 to 94. Yes, 85 to 94.
it's an 80s shoujo manga, and I would say it was one of the early progenitors of BL as well.
Entirely possible. I looking at the designs, sure.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, some stuff's on Crunchyroll. Like, I watch Cells at work through Crunchyroll. Like, I'll, if the legal option is there and I don't have to pay for it, I'll do it that way, and I'll watch the ads when I'm by myself.
Cool.
And for Banana Fish, I will buy that show when it comes out. So
Yeah.
that's how I support it. It's not as if I always like pirate every single thing. Like, if I really love the show, I will support it.
In the end, it still comes down to good content.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I mean, I can't argue. I'm not going to argue the thing. I mean, everyone has their own ways of going about it. But Kevin presents the classical dilemma, of what the industry has to face these days.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
And this needs to happen for manga someday, which I know won't happen for a long time.
We've had the thing is I think it's going through its pains digitally now too.
See, manga I don't read illegally for the most part.
He has a lot. That's why do you think he does the Nomonoi Ichi? Yeah, that's a fair statement. I'm not going to say I totally agree. It's just, we all have our we all have our reasons, right?
I get it.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I think for now, I take that same attitude with smartphones these days. I used to want to get the latest phone, the latest device, the day it came out, and then I needed money. So the thing is, my current phone is an iPhone 7, which I got just a month before Anime North, or just before Anime North this year. That means this phone has been out for the better part of 2 years now. Like the stuff in some model that it's an old, but it works.
Yeah,
it's just I'll take it for now. And if I can snag one of the more recent ones at and I don't expect the most recent ones.
Who's your provider?
Rogers.
Public Mobile.
Good for you.
Freedom, formerly Wind.
Yes.
Oh, really, man? You get good service though, I'm assuming, to justify
it. So I've been with them since day one because
as Wind
because
you've watched them.
It was the first hey, $40 unlimited internet. I'm like, okay, I want unlimited internet. Is it shitty internet? You're damn right it's shitty internet. But it's unlimited. What do I care? And as time progresses, they get better and better. I mean, now it's I pay $50 a month and I get 10 gigs of data.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the big companies had that thing last year. So.
Do you use 10 gigs of data though?
Right, I'm a very heavy user.
He's a heavy user.
You justify,
and he talks about it. He talks in private conversations. Young Mo here has talked about what he streams on his commutes. So he can justify this.
This is July to August. I did 12 gigs.
Holy shit.
And it's all YouTube. I watch so much YouTube.
No,
Holy shit.
He justifies this. So
yeah, I do 15 August to September.
I know people like to make fun of, do you use 10 gigs? Some do.
And I wasn't trying to patronize you, but I was genuinely curious. Do you really use 10 gigs of
You will the thing is, the strange part is we live in a one of the things that's depicted in Japan is a commuter culture. Everyone going on trains and and subways to get to where they have to go for the day. We don't. I don't experience it myself because my job is a 10-minute drive away, even though I live beside a subway station.
How would you subway to work? How would you get from here to your work?
No. I live. The thing is,
I'm just trying to think logistically. I don't a Mississauga bus.
No, for me, I don't take one. I just drive.
Yeah,
I've joined that commuter lifestyle. I do use my phone.
Yes,
I don't watch videos though.
But people are that's the thing. And whenever I'm on a subway, I notice people, and I do it too. Looking at their phones, playing a game, watching a video maybe they've downloaded. If they don't have internet service down below, but some people do, and there's a cult there. The commuter culture is famous in Japan. To some degree, we have a version of it here. It's not to the same degree, but it's there. Here in big cities, in a lot of big cities.
True. I'm just thinking of rush hour and the jam packedness of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's as I said, different strokes for different folks. For me, I'm just saying, okay, so I guess I'm just sticking with Netflix for now. Yeah. My sister is a big Vicky fan.
Oh yeah.
She just sticks with their free service. So, and it's just that I seemingly, and I say this, I've had Netflix for a couple years too, and I don't this is the heaviest use I've had in a little while.
For Netflix?
Yeah, in the last month or the last couple weeks because of watching all those things.
You share your Netflix with, I'm guessing, family and so forth?
Yes.
So you guys all have your own individual accounts?
Yes. So every so often, I go in to see what Neil
has watched. So I've shared my Netflix password with some family that's been staying over and they've just been using it for like the last 3 months, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
So when you launch it up, you have like your list of different accounts.
Yes.
The first account's mine, and then I set up their own accounts for them to use.
Yes.
But they just like decided not to use their own accounts.
So
so
you're
they're using mine, and I'm getting all these ads for Indian because they love Indian.
Okay.
Well, it's kinda like-
Hollywood stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just like nonstop. It used to be where I was almost like super happy about the algorithm.
I have a great story
Okay.
in a sec, but finish yours because I will tell you a great story after.
I love Netflix, and I love the predictiveness of their recommendations. I mean, you watch enough Netflix will get to know you personally and recommend amazing stuff time and time again.
That's
right. But then if you have someone else come in there and start watching a bunch of stuff you don't care about, your recommendations are gone. You'll never get recommend anything you like, just whatever they like.
well. Maybe that's probably how I ended up with a recommendation for Us and Them because of my watch of the odd Japanese Japanese drama.
Exactly.
Yeah, and Asian dramas. Mind you, I think this was a big thing for Netflix to have picked up that movie too. Like I said, it was the highest. It's been, I think, the highest grosser in Chinese theaters this year. So, so it's something they pressed hard because they probably paid for that.
Oh, yeah.
A fair amount for it, a good amount for it. Okay, I'm going to make sure Kevin can hear this story.
Kevin.
Okay, well, see, now that you mentioned the algorithms, though, Mo, did I tell you how my mother ended up with her Kindle?
No.
Okay, and any of my friends on social media knows this story, so I'll tell it now. Okay, I mean, I've had Kindles. I've had a couple Kindles. I've owned one since I've owned them since 2010, 2011 or something.
Okay.
So I've had two different models. And then my mother was reading fair amount, and my sister and I thought, okay, maybe she has a lot of books. Maybe we should consider getting her a Kindle. She was never into, the technology stuff. So we just wanted to test it. And then, so I decided to lend her mine.
Okay.
For a while.
Reading it through your library of books, I guess.
Not through, no, but like she can just download free books herself, just to see if she liked the idea.
Okay.
I never saw it. Mm-hmm. Like it went missing.
Okay.
Right. And then suddenly my inbox started getting all these recommendations for romance novels. From Amazon. From Amazon. I started getting all these Amazon recommendations for romance novels, and my mother got a Kindle for Mother's Day. And then I made it a point to tie her account to my dad's credit card.
Yes.
And I'm told, yes, she had racked up a little bit of a bill. Dad pays it. I'm told pays it. So. But I always double check it every so often anyway. So, but everything seems fine. She still has the Kindle. She still reads it. She still reads it religiously. She'll buy a novel every so often.
Nice.
Without realizing she just bought it, but she'll buy it. So, so that's how my mom ended up with it. I mean, maybe it's about time that we updated it. So that could happen somewhere along the line, maybe next Mother's Day. Anyway, so there's our thoughts on. There's some thoughts. As I said, this is an evolving store. The whole bit with the streaming services. This will be an evolving thing. We'll be keeping up with it. Obviously, we'll get other takes on what happened between Crunchyroll and Funimation too, as well. When James returns to the mics in a future episode, and we'll talk about that. I'm sure we'll talk about that a lot more as time goes and see what further fallout will happen from the separation between Crunchyroll and Funimation. Okay, so before we end off tonight, there isn't really too much to mention. I mean, as you guys came in, we watched a little bit of the Kimono documentary that I mentioned during the digest, and I mean, Kevin's more the fashion guy because I want him to see some of that. I pressed that one on him. You have a thought that from all of that?
Man, it was
aside
so,
from cheesy, but
well, I wouldn't say it was cheesy. It was really cool seeing all the different kinds of kimono that were on display, and like the guy's goal to like make one for every single country
in the Olympics.
So a bit of a noble goal, I'd say. I really liked how because we only saw that one segment, right?
We only saw the Canada story.
So how he asked the one of the national treasures of him making that specific
Ogura,
style
for
the obi, and how like he had to challenge himself because the colors were not like usually they're darker colors. Was that what you said?
Yeah, he's certainly not. They don't get into the bright pastel-y type that he was asked to make.
It's hard for it to be visible if it's that bright, right?
So
darkness stands out more.
Yes.
And I don't know, what's interesting to me is like now I've just, I like a lot of Japanese clothing brands, and I've seen some of these brands use parts of kimono in like whatever they make. So like I know for one brand, I have like it's not a kimono, but it's like a kimono style cardigan where the outside shell is just blue, but in the inside it's like this beautiful print of Mount Fuji. And I don't know my kimono pieces very well. I don't know what's called what, to be honest, but
we just know the obi because that was
like there's like inner garments that you wear in a kimono, and I know there's a brand I really like called Capital where they call it like that part of the kimono, but you just wear it as like a shirt, or you just wear it as like an outer layer.
Okay.
So people have interpreted different pieces of the kimono in different ways. As for like the kimono itself, like it is dying, like, because they don't really wear it in Japan that often anymore, save for like special occasions or like Tanabata or
I mean, well, Tanabata, like, I mean, with yukata, it becomes like that's a fairly that's as casual as it gets.
Yeah,
because kimono is considered formal wear, so that's kimono is now considered more formal wear. I mean, it was everyday wear before.
It's like how the suit's dying, so to speak.
In many respects, I suppose. But the suits are a little bit more, I think, adaptable.
True.
I mean, this is part of the dilemma I think the industry faces. What the hell do I know? I guess, but
and the way I see it right now with suits is that people always think of suits as formal. Oh, suits mean business.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be like that. And it doesn't have to be. Like I've seen like casual suiting. So if you just think of a suit as like just the jacket and a pant, there's a lot of variety out there.
No, it's obviously you're right. I mean, you can take a suit and make it casual. Like you can fester it up, you can make it look colorful and so forth, and wear it in certain ways. But I feel like no matter how much you change, it'll always be suits equal business, or suits equal serious talk.
And I've actually been toying with the idea of wearing casual suiting. So it doesn't even need to look like a suit. It could look like work. It could be like a workwear style, like jacket and pants, but you could still call that a suit, even though you wouldn't think of it as a suit.
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between a tuxedo and like a casual sports jacket.
Yeah, And so I feel like if they want kimonos to survive, people need to adapt the kimono in a normal day setting.
And I think those girls in the class that we saw in the video, I mean, I feel like they're probably having ideas of how to do that, how to get more people to wear kimonos, how to make it more modern, how to make it more adaptable.
And keep in mind, like as I said, I kept saying the style, the Hakata Kenjo style that was depicted in that obi. I mean, there's only 10 living treasures, only 10 people in the world, only 10 people in all of Japan still know how to do that style. And those girls you just saw could very well be part of the successor group. And as I said, kicking and screaming, maybe bringing the style into the 21st century, kicking and screaming, right? I mean, having to dabble with the brighter colors, which may make the style more appealing to people, to others, to women. But I thought it was just an interesting story. It's an ornate garment in my eyes. I always said this about. I always gave this impression of the kimono when I saw it. It's ornate. It's something that's very hard to maintain. That seems very hard to maintain. And if it has to be repurposed, redone, retailored, so to speak, that's a service in it. That's an art form in and of itself. Because I've seen documentaries based on that. How a kimono was basically deconstructed back to the original sheets it were, and then redone completely to fit its new owner, who was the daughter of its previous owner, or something to that effect. So, but that's part of the dilemma: how they completely redid it, restitched it, cleaned it, and that was a process that took weeks. But it also tells you how ornate it can be, and how complicated a garment it can really be. So that's part of the dilemma, I think, too.
Yeah.
Right?
I have a friend who's into kimono. I don't know if she'd be happy with what I just said about you have to rework it.
Show the documentary to her. I'm curious.
I did think of her when I saw that.
Show that to her. Next time you're on, let me know. I'm really curious to hear that take. To hear your friend's take then, if that's the story.
Send me the link and I'll link it to her.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's on the blog, www.animeroundtable.com. I'll send it to you. I'll send you the page again too. Okay, for sure.
Sure.
But I thought that was an interesting story. I still find that a very interesting story. I will say this much: after watching that documentary, I looked a little further back. This has been something NHK has been keeping up with for some years, because they've profiled the Takakura, the guy behind the project. They profiled him back in 2015 on Newsroom Tokyo, on their flagship, on NHK World's flagship English newscast. So they featured him. They did that feature on him, and at the time he had just come back from Milan, and basically he started the first. I think the first kimono in the project was the Italian one, by the way.
Oh, okay.
And he debuted it in Milan. Where else to start, right?
Yeah.
Where else to start this project?
Start
high. And if you can win him over, you're off to a good start. He did. So he featured that, and I think he featured the US one at the time. And if you've heard me talk about NHK World in the past, then you'll know I've mentioned one of the co-anchors of Newsroom Tokyo, Aki Shibuya, who used to be the host of the fashion show on NHK,
yes.
Tokyo Fashion Express. She was in on that segment as well. So I wondered what she would have been thinking, because she's seen her professional past on NHK probably come full circle in some of the segments she's been covering since. So I wondered what her impression was at the time, because she's done profiles of Kyoyu-zen and Kyoto kimono makers in the past. So I wondered what her take would have been personally in seeing all that done. But the thing is, my point is, NHK has been just keeping up with the guy. They've kept up with his project for now 3 years. So I guess they're going to see this through. They'll watch to see how this ultimately unfolds.
2020.
And like I said, he's only at the time of the documentary, he had gotten through 100 of them. He's roughly halfway through. He has 2 years to go. But by all accounts, he's been able to get more people on board. So he might be able to get those last 100 out pretty quickly.
Oh, jeez.
It's just that this is quite the undertaking. So, anyway, I want to hear your final take on that. Really, that's about it. There isn't too much else on the mind today. I just wanted to get something going and talk to you guys again. So I'm glad both of you made it.
Absolutely.
Really, and really, as much as I joke about it, I mean, Neil and James, we'll hear from them too. So to hear their takes on various things in the near future too. What we talked about here, and of course, the other stuff still to come. I'll be watching a few more things. Maybe watch the. Oh God. Now that I mentioned Neil, I ended up thinking about Battleship Tiramisu. Mm-hmm. And
the new season should have started. Either it's going to start or it did start.
See, I got an email mentioning that there's a bathhouse episode of that.
Yeah, my friend recommended that show to me. I know I talked about it in the past,
yes.
but So yeah, we finished that season. It's a fucking dumb show, but it
is fun.
It revels in
like
its stupidity.
Yeah, I think that's the point. It's supposed to be stupid.
Oh, it's hella stupid. But what annoys me is that they don't show the hot girl enough. They always show that like ugly hag, and I'm like, why the fuck is this lady in like every other episode when I want to see the hot chick? I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. Like, come on. But I bet you they do that on purpose too.
Yes. Matt, remember, it's a parody of everything. Anyway, let's leave it at that because I've drunk enough iced tea. I have to go to the washroom. Let's call it a night. Let's call it a night. If you have any comments, questions, flames, especially the flames, to both of you listeners out there, animeroundtable@gmail.com is our email address, www.animeroundtable. That's the blog. It'll be updated as we can with the various other stuff. At Anime Roundtable, that is our Twitter handle. And if you want to check out the entire archive raw, check out our SoundCloud feed. It can be linked from 6talk.com.
I have a question.
Okay, and this is probably the last thing.
So, I was listening to the backlog.
Yes.
So, you remember how you took like a year off, and so there was 2 consecutive like Anime North episodes? Like you did 75 and then like you did 76, and then 77 is when you took your break and then you did an AN episode again?
Well, yeah, when the Comic Den era petered out.
So you apparently did a recording when Neil and Adam reunited, but you never put it up. So where is this footage?
Somewhere.
You have it, don't you? Still have
Somewhere,
it, don't you?
But then it's kind of like anything buried in my library, buried somewhere.
Because I heard that like a week ago, and I was like, wait a second, this never came out. So
I'm still looking for episode 30, by the way.
Inquiring minds want to know.
If anyone finds episode 30, let me know.
Oh, I need to follow up on 2 people that might actually have that episode.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
And if you do find it, let me know, because I am seriously searching for that. Because it's lost to history, to my history anyway.
So yeah, where's the episode, Mike?
I think we might have. See, there's a part of me that's wondering: did I edit this down with that intro between? Oh wait, I think I know what it was. I edited it down, and James and I did an introduction, but we never presented it fully as it was recorded that night. Is that the one you're referring to? I think that's the one, but I could be wrong.
I think it happened like in between like 76 and 77.
Yeah, I think that might have been the story. I think I did that. James and I did a full introduced the episode, or I introduced the episode, and we severely edited it down. But the raw version is the one you're looking for, the as it was recorded that night.
Yeah, I'll look for any of it, because that would have been the last time
Neil and Adam had done the show together.
Yeah,
it was that would have been. Well, Adam did one more episode after that.
He did the AN one.
Yeah, the Anime North.
He did that.
And I think it was him by himself, just him. I don't think Neil did the episode with me. With him that night.
Neil wasn't there for that episode.
Yeah.
Because I remember, I heard this episode like a week ago.
That was the last time those 2 were together, and then Adam did one more, and we haven't, as I said, Adam has his own battles to fight. Well, I'll say that much. Adam certainly does have his own battles, and I support whatever those battles are. I do support him fully. I do know a lot of what those battles are, but maybe this is for him to say, and we'll leave it to him to ultimately say in whatever form he chooses when the time comes. But I know he's not listening, but I know he'll never listen to this. But he does have he'll always have my support on that, regardless. Anyway, that's it for tonight. So thanks for listening, as always, and good night from Toronto. Join us again for another edition of the Anime Roundtable on 6 Talk.